An all-out battle takes place between the CCG and the Alga Tree, led by the one-eyed owl. Shinahara and Iwat take on the one-eyed owl using a new, unique armor called Dorota. Meanwhile, Toka engages her brother but ultimately gets defeated. As she lays there, she calls out to her deceased father, which enrages Ayato. He tries to finish her off, but thankfully Kaneki jumps in and saves her before taking him on back to Shinahara and Iwat, who are struggling against the owl. Backed into a corner and with no way to escape, they activate an overcharge ability in their new Queen K, which now enables them to hold their own against the one-eyed beast, but not for long as the armor consumes the user alive to sustain itself. Moments later, a set of explosives starts to detonate, leading the whole building to collapse. Some stray debris falls onto Shinahara and Iwat, but to their surprise, they are saved by the one-eyed owl. Back to Kaneki, who quickly overpowers Ayato, commenting that he knows why he joined the Algiri tree. Ayato lashes out, but Kaneki simply takes him down, commenting that it was to protect something dear to him, but unfortunately, he was snatched away by Naro. The CCG lost about half its troops and suspected that it was a trap. Meanwhile, Kaneki rendezvous back with Toka and informs her that he won't be going back to the Anteiku, as he will be joining the Algiri tree. Now the 9th and 10th wards are lost to the Algiri, apparently led by a ghoul with an eye patch. Meanwhile, Moto's daughter, Akira, is assigned to become Kotoro's new partner. Toka decided to go to the Common University, and Akira suggests that a ghoul organization is in control of the 20th ward, but she also causes some friction among the investigators because of her abrupt manner. Now the coffee shop has reopened. Kaneki has now joined the Alga Tree. Kaneki and Ayato lead an Alga Tree attack on a CCG convoy to rescue Naki, one of Jason's old underlings who is being taken to a maximum security prison for ghouls. During the mission, they are attacked by the twin ghouls, revealing that they are also one-eyed, just like Kaneki. Toka pays a visit to the university that Kaneki used to attend, where she has an encounter with Hide, who is now working as a messenger for the CCG. On his way out, he tells her about how Kaneki grabs his chin when he is lying. Juzo receives a new weapon, and Inami goes to visit her favorite author, while Amon and Akira visit Cochlea prison to learn more about Alga Tree plan from Donato Porpora, Amon's ex-father figure who is also a ghoul. The Alga Tree start their attack on the prison, taking down everyone in sight. The two one-eyed ghouls, Connor and Nashio, run into Juzo. The three of them start talking as if they've known each other a long time ago. The Juzo asks them why they became ghouls, to which Connor replies that they wanted to leave the twisted human world. Back to Kaneki, who tries to free a powerful ghoul named Sochi, who had a personal relationship with Rize. However, he is attacked by him, as Sochi states that he doesn't trust him and proceeds to pummel Kaneki around. Hideyoshi arrives and greets Sochi, asking if you would like to see Rize. Meanwhile, a wailing Kaneki begins devouring ghoul corpses in desperation. Flashbacks show that Juzo Karuna, Nashio, and Shizuku used to be classmates until one day Shizuku tragically died, leading Karuna and Nashio to hate how fragile the human world is. Back in the present, Juzo effortlessly dispatches Karuna. Stating that she won't have enough time to regenerate, just before showering her with a barrage of knives. Nashio tries to save her sister but is badly injured, forcing the two to retreat. 大事なもの。次、来るな。レールなんかになっちゃったんだ。Ayato tries to take on Shinohara. But while in the middle of the fight, Ayato can't help but feel a weird connection towards the armor, hinting that it's his father's Kagane. Fortunately, he is no match against the new armor, as Shinohara easily takes him out. Just before Shinohara can deal the finishing blow, Kaneki jumps in and proceeds to destroy Shinohara. RC gas is released into the facility, which is a gas that suppresses ghoul powers, sealing the fate of the remaining ghouls in the facility. Amon and his partner arrive just in time to see Kaneki devouring Shinohara. Enraged by this, Amon takes on a far weaker Kaneki, cutting limb after limb and questioning him about the day they first met and why he didn't kill him when he had the chance to. Kaneki starts staring up and states that he doesn't want to kill anymore. In a flash, the one-eyed owl joins the battle and rescues Kaneki and Ayato. Juzo recalls the time when he was known as Rei, an arena executioner for the Ghoul Big Madame, and then his eventual rescue by the CCG led by Shinohara. Amon and Akira spend some time together and develop a better understanding of each other. Meanwhile, the CCG prepares a task force to combat the one-eyed owl and the Algiri, and Kaneki painfully tries to gain control of his new Kagane. Itu pays a visit to the CCG headquarters in order to interview one of the special investigators about ghouls for her next book. But the interview goes dry. Just before leaving, she drops a hint about Anteiku. Fruity Guy visits Anteiku to deliver some intelligence about Kaneki. On his way, he gets stopped by a curious Inami who is trying to know more about Kaneki. Caught off guard by this, he invites her to a coffee shop that Kaneki used to read at. Moments later, the Fruity Guy goes to the restroom, and Inami gets greeted by Itu. Sensing that she is worried about Kaneki, she quickly tells her that she is a kind-hearted young lady. But in her current state, she can't do anything to help her friend, and the only person who can help him is himself. Back at the coffee shop, Kaneki makes a surprise visit, and Inami gets wind of this and runs to inform Toka, and Toka arrives at the last moment to see him off. Kaneki tells her that the manager asked him to come back, but he's still thinking about it and that he doesn't want to lose anyone else, even if it means being alone. He touches his chin, which means that he is lying, as he day-told her the day before. Enraged by this, she tells him that she doesn't need his protection and that he should stop acting like a tragic hero. Then she leaves. Later that night, Shinohara, accompanied by Juzo, pays a visit to the coffee shop, and they start chatting with the manager. But Shinohara can't shake the feeling that he is the one-eyed owl. Flashbacks show that the real reason Kaneki visits the store is to inquire about the one-eyed owl. The manager tells him that a long time ago, a ghoul named Kusin was recruited by the organization called V, who would use any means necessary to complete their missions. Kusin was ruthlessly efficient at his job, to the point where he was both feared and treated like an outcast by humans and ghouls. In the end, he chose to lead the organization in search of a better place, until one day he was caught off guard by a beautiful young lady, who quelled his sense of loneliness. They quickly started bonding until one day she saw him do the unspeakable, but she accepted him for who he was. They eventually had a child, but their happiness didn't last. One day a tragedy struck, and Kusin was forced to abandon the one-eyed ghoul child. And that's the story behind the one-eyed owl, Kusin's son, aka Yoshimura. Kusin then sends Toka and Inami with Yomo, suspecting that the CCG has discovered the truth about Anteiku and is planning an attack. Indeed, the Kig's chairman, Sunichi Washu, authorizes an attack on Anteiku to kill the owl. The three old friends drink a last cup of coffee as the CCG staff prepare their testamentary notes in their own personal ways in preparation for a potentially fatal full-scale assault on Anteiku. They launched the attack using conventional and specialized weapons and were greeted by the Devil, Apes, and Black Doberman groups. Meanwhile, Yoshimura pretends to be the one-eyed owl despite being warned of the danger. Toka and Kaneki head to the 20th ward to assist their friends. The two titans clash as hundreds of soldiers and ghouls lose their lives. Shinohara, alongside Amaniwa, Hoji, and Juzo, takes on the manager, pretending to be the one-eyed owl. And Devil Apes engage the commander of the 2nd Division in one-on-one combat, swiftly dodging his deadly attack. Moments later, he quickly deduces how to disable his weapon but is caught in a surprise attack and mortally wounded. But just before passing out, he was saved by Kaneki. Hashikawa, who has a personal vendetta against Arami, is accompanied by 2 skilled CCG members who fight against her. But they are no match for her speed as she climbs up a building and the old lady comes out. Hashikawa chooses to sacrifice her to land a hit on the SS-rated ghoul, but Arami quickly uses herself to protect the old lady as she falls. She wishes she had a second cup of coffee just before going on a rampage as a last-ditch effort, accepting all of her past sins and flaws and being grateful for the life that she lived. One of the soldiers reprimands Hashikawa for his actions, reminding him that protecting civilians is their top priority. He tells him that she's killed his friend, his teacher, and scarred him for life. So taking out an old lady who already has one foot in the grave in order to dispatch her is a small price to pay. Just before he can deal the finishing blow, Irami gets saved by Kaneki, who effortlessly takes them all out. Back to the manager, who is outnumbered 5-1. He tries to fight back with no success as the others chop him to pieces. In his last moments, he starts remembering all the good memories he made with his staff up until he's greeted by his deceased wife and joins her on the other side. The CCG roars in celebration as they think the owl that terrorized them is finally finished. To their disappointment, the real owl strikes down like a thunderclap, revealing her to be a twisted, bloodthirsty monster who is vastly stronger than her dad. The one-eyed owl easily defeats Shinohara and Juzo, and when the algae tree joins the battle, the CCG is driven into a corner. Kaneki and Amon face off and reluctantly engage in battle. Eventually, the strongest investigator, Kisho Arima, attacks the one-eyed owl, giving the CCG renewed hope to fight. Badly wounded, the one-eyed owl consumes Ishimura's body and escapes. Also wounded, Kaneki struggles towards Anteiku. He wakes up in a cafe and finds Hide trying to make coffee for him in a post-credit scene. The owl regurgitates that Yoshimura is still alive and goes back to the original forum, revealing herself to have been both sent to Kotsuki and the Owlie too. Kaneki thinks back to happier times in Anteiku. Hide reveals that he knew Kaneki was a ghoul after Nishiki attacked the two of them. Hide collapsed from blood loss and passed out in Kaneki's arms, having been mortally wounded on the battlefield. Toka chases after Kaneki when she sees him walking out of the burning house on Anteiku, but is stopped by Yomo, who states that Ishimura's last request was for him to protect her. Kaneki walks towards the CCG, carrying Hide's body in his arms, and faces Arima in battle. The next morning, Kaneki, Hide, and Amon vanished along with the other CCG members, leaving only An and Homd Arima, most likely having won against Kaneki, leaving Kaneki's fate unknown. After the credits, it is shown that Toka has opened up a new cafe.
Take you